From a young age, we are taught that the Great Pyramid of Giza is the grand tomb of Pharaoh Khufu, a wonder built with nothing more than primitive tools and human labor. A simple, easy-to-understand story, and it seems reasonable. But as we grow older and become more exposed to reality, we begin to realize there are pieces that don't fit. There are questions that have never been answered. And there are truths that seem to have been hidden beneath the golden sands of the desert. Could the pyramids really just be the product of ancient Egyptians? Or are we standing in front of a structure beyond imagination, built by a civilization that history has deliberately forgotten? In this video, you will join me as we journey through the cracks of history, where light has never shone, rooms that have never been unlocked, tunnels that have been buried, traces that modern science cannot explain. And more than just an exploration, this may be a journey that changes the way you view the past and the future. The massive stone statues, walls covered with hieroglyphs, and the Great Pyramid of Giza standing tall in the desert, like a finger pointing up, challenging time. Everyone has heard this story. Around 2550 BC, Pharaoh Khufu, an Egyptian king, ordered the construction of the pyramid as his tomb. And somehow, thousands of ancient workers, with copper tools, ropes, and perseverance, created a wonder ahead of its time. It seems reasonable. It seems, until you start to take a closer look. That's when the story begins to crack. The details don't match, the evidence is lacking, and most importantly, the feeling that someone is carefully hiding part of the truth. While we have always regarded the Great Pyramid as a magnificent symbol of ancient engineering, the truth is, there is almost no concrete evidence confirming that Pharaoh Khufu was the one who built it. And remember, the ancient Egyptians were famous for meticulously recording everything, from daily life to spiritual rituals, from farming to royal events. They didn't miss anything, except the construction of the greatest structure they ever created. Strange, right? A few faint traces, symbols thought to be related to Khufu, were found deep inside hidden rooms. But what's interesting is that they were only discovered centuries after the pyramid was first explored. And for those who seriously study history, this makes one question the authenticity of those evidence. In the end, we have to ask ourselves, just because a name appears on a wall, can we believe that person is the author of the entire structure? Or are we simply attaching a convenient story to a legacy whose true origin still lies beyond our understanding? One of the greatest and most controversial mysteries is the true purpose of the Great Pyramid of Giza. Mainstream scholars have long claimed that it is the magnificent tomb of Pharaoh Khufu. However, when we take a closer look inside this structure, that story begins to waver. There are no golden statues, no ritual offerings, no inscriptions praising the supreme king, as is usually found in any other royal tomb. And most importantly, there is no trace of Khufu's body. A pyramid that is supposed to be built to honor a pharaoh, yet is so empty that it feels cold. This is something that undoubtedly raises questions. In any royal tomb ever discovered, whether large, small, famous, or forgotten, clear evidence is always found. Jewels, bas-reliefs, pottery, carvings, and mummies. But with the Great Pyramid, all of that is missing. And that is when another possibility begins to be considered. Could the true purpose of the pyramid be completely different from what history has claimed? Perhaps this was not a burial site, but rather a structure with a more sophisticated function, or serving a purpose that we are still unable to fully comprehend. The deeper the research, the more astonishing discoveries modern science has made. For example, the way the pyramid is almost perfectly aligned with true north, accurate to the smallest fraction of a degree. With modern technology, this is an impressive achievement. But with the techniques of over 4,000 years ago, it seems nearly impossible. Inside this structure are gigantic granite blocks weighing up to 80 tons, crafted with such precision that the cuts and drill holes suggest a level of technology that even modern machinery would be in awe of. No one can adequately explain. How could the ancient Egyptians have done this with nothing more than copper tools and stone hammers? Engineer Christopher Dunn, after years of research, has noted the perfectly round drill cores and sharp cuts, clear signs of advanced mechanical technology, far beyond the capabilities of the tools of that time. Even modern researchers have tried to replicate these cuts using copper tools, but the results were nearly zero. After just a few hours of work, the tools were dull, and the granite remained almost intact. One researcher joked, "If we come back in another hour, you'll see we'll have cut about 4 millimeters." This failure was no accident. It proves that we are missing an important piece of the puzzle, and there is something else few people have noticed. The complex tunnel system inside the pyramid shows no signs of fire or smoke. If the ancient builders had truly used torches or oil lamps, there should be soot marks. But no, the ceilings remain clean, and the stone walls are pristine. Does this mean they used a different kind of lighting technology? Or does it suggest that the entire method of constructing the pyramid was far different from what we have imagined? The complete absence of soot or burn marks in the corridors and rooms inside the Great Pyramid raises an extremely thought-provoking question. If torches or oil lamps weren't used as we have believed, then how did the ancient Egyptians illuminate that dark space? Did they possess lighting technology ahead of its time? Or is this a sign that the entire construction method was not at all like what the textbooks describe? It is these pieces of the puzzle that have led to a bold yet fascinating hypothesis. Perhaps the original builders of the pyramids possessed a level of science and technology far beyond what modern archaeology has ever imagined. But instead of being encouraged to explore and verify such ideas, these perspectives are often dismissed, even ignored, especially under the strict control of the most influential figure in Egyptian archaeology, Dr. Zahi Hawass. For decades, the mainstream archaeological system has consistently refused to consider groundbreaking hypotheses, even as evidence continues to pile up. Independent researchers like Robert Bauval, the author of the Orion correlation theory, have pointed out that the 3 main pyramids at Giza are precisely arranged to reflect the 3 stars of Orion's belt, just as their positions were in the sky around 10,500 BC. This not only suggests that the structure may be much older than mainstream history acknowledges, but also implies that the ancients may have possessed highly advanced astronomical knowledge. We also cannot overlook the studies of Robert Schoch and John Anthony West on the Sphinx. They discovered signs of erosion around the body of the statue that could not have been caused by desert winds, but are clear indications of rainfall and prolonged water flow. The round, wave-like erosion marks at the base of the Sphinx suggest that this area had once experienced heavy rainfall, something that could not occur in the modern dry climate of Egypt. This raised an important question. Could the Sphinx have existed during a time of much greater rainfall, meaning at least 12,000 years ago, at the end of the Ice Age? Instead of being embraced, these studies were dismissed or ignored, not because they lacked evidence, but perhaps because they threatened the entire belief structure of mainstream history. The wear around the body of the Sphinx and the surrounding pit do not resemble any marks created by wind or sand. Instead, they take on a winding, rounded shape, a type of erosion that only occurs when rainwater flows continuously over time, like the heavy downpours that once flooded this land. And here is the shocking piece of the puzzle. According to geological data, The last time the Sahara saw enough rainfall to cause this kind of erosion was around 12,000 years ago, the end of the last ice age. While some argue that these marks are from later restorations, the important question remains: how could there be signs of water in a land that has been arid for thousands of years? The answer leads us in a completely different direction. Perhaps the Sphinx is not an ancient Egyptian structure, as we have always thought, but rather the product of a civilization far older, one that existed before Egypt was even formed. Researcher John Anthony West strongly developed this theory, envisioning an entirely different picture of the Sphinx's origins. According to him, tens of thousands of years ago, before this land turned into a desert, the Giza Plateau was once a lush, fertile grassland. At the edge of this land, a large natural rock protruded from the ground. An anonymous group of sculptors chose this rock as a foundation and skillfully carved it into a giant face, perhaps representing an ancient god or the image of a majestic lion. No one knows for sure. And then time passed. As the Ice Age ended, the climate changed. Heavy rains poured in, and rivers of water eroded the statue's body. It was then that the shape of the Sphinx began to change, gradually becoming what we see today. Then, the rains ceased. The lush landscape disappeared, replaced by the vast, barren desert stretching endlessly. The dust and sand carried by the wind gradually buried the giant lion statue, with only the head remaining above the ground. But this very thing protected the statue's body perfectly for millennia, preserving the precious traces of history and nature. Then came the era of the pharaohs, specifically around 2500 BC, during the Fourth Dynasty. When the Great Pyramids were being built at Giza, the kings discovered this ancient statue, still buried in the sand. And instead of building a new one, they chose to restore and modify the face of the statue, even carving it to resemble their own faces, possibly Pharaoh Khafre. The important thing is, he did not create the Sphinx. He was simply the one who restored it. Although John Anthony West's hypothesis has been strongly supported by solid scientific evidence and has become one of the most convincing theories about the origins of the Sphinx, the mainstream Egyptology community continues to avoid or dismiss it. What is surprising is that they cannot offer any convincing explanation to replace it, leaving the puzzle of the Sphinx's true age unsolved, and this mystery continues to be pushed into a dead end. West's discovery has raised many questions, and even in a public debate, geologists sided with him, agreeing with his conclusions. Meanwhile, the Egyptology community has almost been unable to provide any valid counter-arguments to his research. West has truly been a nightmare for conservative scholars, as he approached the subject from an entirely new angle, bringing with him a theory that is carefully constructed, clear, and coherent. What's important is that he has provided irrefutable data, leaving the scientific community struggling and threatening to shake the very foundation of knowledge. And the response from those who oppose him? They choose to ignore it. They hope it will disappear on its own, but the truth is, it hasn't disappeared. It has only grown stronger. And the most important question still cannot be overlooked. Why is there such strong resistance to exploring alternative hypotheses? Does this reluctance truly stem from a desire to protect Egypt's heritage? Or is it an effort to preserve personal reputations, defend academic traditions, or even national pride? If there is nothing extraordinary beneath the sands of Egypt, then why does the persistent secrecy and refusal to investigate further still persist? Could it be that within the ancient pyramids there lies a forgotten advanced technology, one that could completely overturn what we understand about ancient civilizations? Perhaps the answers we are seeking will challenge everything we once thought we knew about human history. As we continue to delve into the unsolved mysteries of the Great Pyramid of Giza, The answers we uncover may astonish you and completely change the way you view history. The biggest question still remains: who really built the Great Pyramid? But the answer may be hidden beneath the ground, in corners rarely mentioned. We are usually only made aware of the king's chamber, the queen's chamber, and a few passageways connecting them. However, recent discoveries have opened up a surprising new horizon. The pyramid may be concealing secrets that even historians have never considered. In the 1990s, a German engineer, Rudolf Gantenbrink, shocked the world when he discovered a mysterious tunnel system inside the Queen's chamber, a place that experts had previously thought was purely symbolic, with nothing of significance. Using a small robotic camera, he sent the device through narrow spaces and discovered a strange limestone door, firmly fixed to the wall with two round copper handles. This door, later named the Gantenbrink door, immediately became a groundbreaking discovery, as no metal fixtures like this had ever been found inside the pyramid. This raised the question: could this door be guarding an important secret? But when Gantenbrink's team prepared to continue their exploration behind the door, the Egyptian authorities suddenly halted the investigation without providing a reasonable explanation. More than 10 years later, in 2002, another research team funded by National Geographic returned and drilled a small hole through the door. What surprised them was that behind the door was another limestone slab, still unopened, and to this day, no one has been allowed to continue the exploration. The question remains: why did the Egyptian authorities insist on halting investigations at such a critical moment? Was it to protect valuable treasures, or simply to conceal something important that they did not want the public or the world to know? Then, in 2017, the story became more captivating than ever. A group of international scientists used advanced scanning technology called muon radiography to survey the interior of the pyramid without causing any harm to the structure. And the results were astonishing. They discovered a huge empty cavity just above the Grand Gallery, a chamber previously unknown and twice the size of all the existing rooms in the pyramid. But there was no obvious entrance, and no one knew exactly what it had been built for. The scientists immediately called it one of the most significant archaeological discoveries in decades. However, once again, the Egyptian authorities refused further investigation requests, citing vague reasons related to safety and preservation. As we delve deeper into the unexplored sections of the Great Pyramid, the physical evidence inside begins to pose major questions for existing theories. Engineer Christopher Dunn did something that few dared to do. He spent time meticulously studying each granite block inside the king's chamber. What he found was not just signs of primitive tools, but perfectly round drill holes and incredibly precise cuts, resembling the work of modern machinery, not the simple copper tools that scholars have long claimed were sufficient to create such structures. Granite is one of the hardest stones in the world, and the ancient tools we know about would only be able to wear down or shatter upon contact with this type of stone. So how could the ancient Egyptians achieve precision far beyond the capabilities of tools from that time? This leads us to ask an even deeper question. Could it be that the builders of the pyramids had access to a type of technology that we are not yet aware of today? Or perhaps they inherited technical knowledge from a civilization that has completely disappeared, a civilization that may never have been recorded in history. Although these questions are becoming clearer, the mainstream archaeology community still turns a blind eye or excessively defends traditional theories. Perhaps they are genuinely concerned with protecting Egypt's heritage, but in doing so, they may inadvertently be blocking the truth, a truth that could be hiding right beneath our feet. Are we being too cautious to truly understand the secrets waiting to be uncovered? The unsolved mysteries continue to haunt us. The sealed limestone door, what could it be hiding that we have never known? And the enormous cavity discovered in 2017. What was its purpose? Why is there no obvious entrance? And will we ever uncover these secret spaces? The biggest question still remains: who really built the Great Pyramid, and how did they do it? With countless unanswered questions about this magnificent structure, there is one person who acts as the bridge between us and the truth: Dr. Zahi Hawass. He is the one who has shaped what the public knows about ancient Egypt, but he is also the one who has kept silent about the things we are not allowed to know. For more than 3 decades, Hawass has controlled Egyptian archaeology, always presenting himself with a strong and decisive demeanor, steadfastly defending Egypt's ancient heritage. The powerful positions he has held, such as Secretary General of the Supreme Council of Antiquities and Minister of Antiquities, gave him absolute power in deciding who could excavate, what research could be conducted, and which discoveries could be released to the world. Although Dr. Zahi Hawass has always appeared as a passionate protector and promoter of Egyptian culture, beneath that glamorous exterior lies a much darker reality. Behind the fascinating stories of ancient discoveries is actually a conservative and secretive system that constantly obstructs the efforts of researchers wanting to question the long-established historical hypotheses. Supporters of Hawass would argue that he is simply protecting Egypt's priceless heritage from theories that are unfounded or too vague. However, there is another, more concerning possibility that can't be ignored. Could his tight control be a way to hide a few truths that could shake the safe historical narratives that the academic world has constructed? Could national pride and the reputations of experts be the reason why important truths are kept hidden? By controlling who is allowed to research and which discoveries are made public, Dr. Zahi Hawass has positioned himself as the ultimate overseer of Egypt's history. He may have even stopped discoveries that could completely change the way we understand the ancient world. Hawass's legacy is a very complex story. On one hand, he has elevated Egypt's cultural prestige worldwide, making the world admire the heritage of this country. However, his strict control decisions, whether intentional or not, may have blocked important discoveries. And this could mean that the core truths about ancient Egypt remain buried beneath the sands of time, waiting for a day to be uncovered. And here is the troubling question: is Dr. Zahi Hawass truly protecting Egypt's heritage, or is he guarding secrets that could rewrite the entire history of humanity? An independent research group has discovered strong evidence that completely challenges the official story we have long been taught. As mentioned earlier, Dr. Robert Bauval made shocking discoveries about the Sphinx. He suggested that the origins of the Sphinx could date back much further than the time typically accepted by historians, and may even be linked to a forgotten ancient civilization. Based on this hypothesis, Robert Bauval developed a prominent theory called the Orion correlation theory. Bauval noticed something astonishing. The 3 main pyramids at Giza perfectly reflect the 3 stars of Orion's belt. However, unlike how they were arranged during Pharaoh Khufu's time, this correlation precisely matches the position of Orion around 10,500 BC, thousands of years earlier than what mainstream history acknowledges. This cannot be just a coincidence. In ancient Egyptian culture, the constellation of Orion held profound sacred significance, believed to be the symbol of Osiris, the god of the afterlife, resurrection, and the endless cycle of life and death. If Bauval's theory is correct, this could indicate that the builders of the pyramids possessed a level of astronomical knowledge far beyond what we ever imagined. They may have intentionally encoded these great structures with cosmic significance, a type of understanding that we once thought could only belong to modern civilizations. But there may be an even bigger story behind this. Some researchers believe that the magnificent structures of Egypt may not have solely originated from the ancient Egyptian civilization, but are the legacy of an even older civilization, one that has been forgotten, with technology and techniques far surpassing what mainstream history acknowledges. A major question that raises doubt is how the ancient Egyptians could have transported the massive stone blocks to the pyramid construction site. Some of these stones weigh up to 80 tons, and they were quarried from sites more than 500 meters away from the Giza Plateau. While traditional historians have tried to explain this, none of the explanations are truly convincing regarding how the Egyptians could have moved these enormous blocks, especially when they lacked wheels or modern machinery. Even with modern technology today, transporting such massive stones remains an extremely complex challenge, requiring heavy-duty equipment, specialized transportation vehicles, and detailed logistics planning. The significant gaps in these mainstream historical accounts have led us to ask an important question. What tools and methods helped the ancient builders achieve what even modern engineers today would find difficult? Graham Hancock, an independent researcher, has put forward a controversial hypothesis. Could there have once been an advanced global civilization, a civilization that we have now forgotten, perhaps due to a global catastrophe or a gradual decline? Hancock points to ancient monuments around the world, such as Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, an ancient temple complex dating back about 12,000 years, as irrefutable evidence of the existence of this lost civilization. Hancock believes that the sophisticated knowledge once held by ancient civilizations was not entirely lost. Instead, the remaining fragments of that knowledge were passed down through generations and eventually had a profound influence on ancient Egyptian civilization. Esteemed researchers like John Anthony West and Dr. Robert Schoch share this view. They argue that the ancient Egyptians could not have suddenly developed architectural, astronomical, and mathematical skills so quickly and brilliantly, all within a short period of time. Instead, they believe that these exceptional abilities were actually inherited from an even older civilization, which helps explain why ancient Egyptian culture emerged so powerfully and sophisticatedly, rather than developing gradually like other civilizations in history. Although traditional Egyptologists often dismiss or reject these theories as mere fantasies, the truth is that increasingly strong evidence is emerging, forcing us to no longer ignore them. For example, the mysterious Orion Temple at Abydos is a notable example. Built from massive granite blocks, this structure demonstrates outstanding precision and sophisticated craftsmanship, no different from what we see inside the Great Pyramid. These skills truly surpass the capabilities of ancient Egyptians, at least in the way we understand their technology from the early period. These discoveries not only seriously challenge the historical narratives we have been taught, but also open up layers of historical mysteries yet to be uncovered. It is possible that mainstream archaeology has overlooked or deliberately ignored the evidence showing the existence of an ancient civilization, a civilization with knowledge and technology far beyond its time, standing behind the iconic structures of Egypt. If this is true, then the question is, who were these people? And how could they possess technology that far surpassed their era? After carefully considering all the unexpected discoveries we have uncovered, from the lack of clear records linking Pharaoh Khufu to the Great Pyramid, to the signs of intricate stonework that could not have been achieved with primitive tools, along with the secret chambers that remain unopened, and the clues suggesting this structure may have a much older history than we know, we are left with one big question. Is what we've been taught about history really accurate? These new discoveries suggest that the builders of the pyramids may have possessed advanced knowledge and techniques that mainstream archaeology has never acknowledged. While these hypotheses may initially make us skeptical, each new clue forces us to reconsider and reevaluate that theory. It's possible that the ancient Egyptians knew more than we ever imagined, and their sophisticated techniques were just one part of a heritage forgotten over time. Or perhaps these great pyramids are the result of an ancient civilization that has vanished, and the Egyptians were simply inheritors or alterers of that civilization's techniques. So if these hypotheses are so intriguing, why does mainstream archaeology still hesitate, unwilling to explore further? One of the biggest reasons is this: acknowledging the existence of a more advanced, ancient civilization would require us to completely rewrite the history we have believed in for centuries. Historians, archaeologists, and even nations have built their reputations, identities, and national pride based on a traditional timeline that cannot be altered. Adjusting history books, rewriting museums, and admitting that what we have always believed might not be accurate is not an easy task for anyone. For Egypt, if we accept that the famous pyramids could have existed before the Egyptian civilization we know, or were not entirely built by the Egyptians, this could touch on sensitive issues related to national pride and identity. We must ask ourselves, do archaeologists have the courage to open the sealed doors and uncover the truth hidden inside? Or will the secrets of the Great Pyramid remain buried, waiting for future generations to be brave enough to uncover the truth? We stand at a crossroads: continue to believe in the current historical narrative, or open the secret doors and discover truths that have never been revealed? These discoveries could completely change how we view the past, and more importantly, how we view ourselves and our history. To explore more unsolved mysteries, don't forget to follow us and stay tuned for regular updates.